This is where we had left off yesterday. We had done the 50 together. I think we even ended up, at least most of you, I checked your 60s. Let me do those real quick. So you might notice that I can go pretty quick when doing this. It's just because I have a lot of experience. When I'm doing this, I am thinking that whole drawing a fence idea that I am separating anything bigger than 50 from anything less than 50. So I was able to knock that off pretty quick. You may have noticed I had forgotten to highlight a 60 here. And I think I noticed and here. I forgot to highlight two 60s. Oh, yeah. But what I think I mentioned yesterday was as I was connecting them, I found what I had skipped. So when you're connecting them, you should be looking as you're going. I had some people yesterday, they're like, I don't quite know where to go. So let me try it with the 70s. I'll go a little slower. So when you start connecting, I want you looking for, like I said, we should have highlighted them. So let me try and quickly highlight some 70s. Okay, it doesn't look like there's too many 70s. So when you're going, if you're like stuck, one way of thinking about this is thinking about crossing a street. What do you have to do when you cross the street? Look both ways and make sure it's safe. Now, this time I'm not talking about safe being a car coming at you, but this time I'm talking about a safe being like, is it okay for a 70 to go here? So basically I get here and let's say I'm going up this time. I have to see, okay, can a 70 safely go in between a 69 and a 78? Yeah, it can. 70 comes right after 68. So now I stop. It's like I'm at an intersection again, and I got to look around to see where it's safe. So again, I see it's going to be safe, and I'm going to go in and around these guys. So again, stop, look all the ways to see how it's safe to get here. So if you are like still struggling a little bit, just take it little bit by little bit. Where is it safe to put that 70? Then once you've gotten all the way around, so one thing that I noticed a few of you did is you had what I call hanging lines. Like you might not have connected these two 70s together. You do always have to either have a full circle or full loop, I should say, or they go off the edge of the map. For this one, we couldn't take it off the edge of the map because then it would have crossed the 60s. So I've noticed almost everybody did that part correctly. How do I check my work to see if I'm good? This is one thing I need you guys doing is checking your work. And once you have that 70 drawn, check to make sure everything inside is bigger than 70 and everything outside is less than 70. So it just takes a quick scan. Now the 80s are where I saw most of the people have some issues. You saw 4 of them. And I saw a lot of people perfectly go, okay, here, I safely connect up to that 80. And then I saw a bunch of people safely connect those two. But the problem was trying to connect those two sets of 80s. Phoenix, you got this? Watching? So since there is no safe way, let me grab a pencil so I don't screw this up. I saw some people try to go through here to get there. Is that safe for an 80 to go in between 70 and 72? It's not. So then I saw some people trying to go this way over. Is that safe? I mean, what's wrong with that? Yeah, 72 and 75, 80 doesn't belong in between there. So it's not safe. So same deal if you went here, 80 doesn't go in between 75 and 75. There is no safe way to connect these two sets of 80s. So what you do is you make basically 2 separate peaks to this mountain. Just like this one that I was showing you yesterday or the one that I had on the PowerPoint. Sometimes mountains have a peak on one side and a totally separate peak that's not even connected on the other side of the mountain. So that's legit. You might sometimes have to do 2 sets of circles. You do whatever you can that's safe. So how do you guys feel about those? Besides the 80s, how did you guys feel? Okay. Now that I showed you it's okay to do 2 separate circles, you okay with 80? Okay, so we're gonna practice a lot more of these. We're gonna practice a whole bunch of these tomorrow. I unfortunately have to take my kids to the dentist tomorrow, so I'm not gonna be in school. So I got a whole bunch of these to practice. Ones that I think are even a little bit easier than this one. So this is tougher than most of the ones that are gonna be on the regions. They're usually a lot smaller, with a lot less lines. So you're gonna do some of those to practice tomorrow. And then we're gonna just do some latitude and longitude review tomorrow too. So that way you guys can work pretty much without too much help from anyone else. So with that being said, how about we practice one more of these before we keep going? Okay, yeah. I think map number 2 is almost too hard. It's not impossible, but I think it's way harder than any you're gonna have to do. Let's try map 3. So that's on page 28. Page 28, and I know mine's a little blurry, but you have the same thing in front of you, so you're gonna be looking at yours anyway. So we're gonna do the same thing. What's the number 1 rule of earth science? Read all the words. We come down here, so we see a bunch of numbers, and the directions say, assume the data was measured at the center of each number. So just like yesterday, I want you to highlight the data points that are same value. Again, I said pencil. I want you to highlight with a highlighter. Sorry, I forgot to put that on the board. We're going to connect all the dots with a smooth curve, and we're going to use a contour interval of 10 meters. What does that mean, a contour interval of 10 meters?
Up by 10, Mike.
The lines count by tens. Yep. Lines go up or count by tens. So what would, again, without looking at the numbers like we did yesterday, what would the first number you would look for?
Oh, 60.
You actually always start at 0 first. So 0, then 10, then 20, then 30, then 40. And you might have already started looking. I see some numbers in the 60s. Does anybody see a 6060? I don't. So the first one we're going to do is going to be 70. And the last one we're going to do is going to be 110 meters. So you're going to go from 70, 80, 90, 100, 110. I'm going to let you guys, well, let's do one line together. How about that? So we're going to grab your highlighters. Highlight all these 70s you see, 70, 70s. Like I said, if you skip one, it's not the end of the world. I think you'll find it as you're going around. Looks like I only found 8. I don't know if any of you found more than 8. Anybody find more than 8? No way. Oh, okay. 8, 9, 10. No way. 10. Where am I missing? 11, 12. Somebody said they had 13?
Oh, yeah, 13.
Where the heck?
Bottom, all the way right corner.
I got bottom right corner.
Up a little
Up a little?
more,
Yeah, that's 13.
more, right there.
But I got that one high.
Over.
Okay, like I said, it wouldn't have mattered. You would have found it when you were walking around with your pen. So where do you want to start?
Wait, hold on, I'm missing one.
Oh boy.
Oh, yeah, I found it.
Okay, so it doesn't matter where you start. I tend to start in the upper right-hand corner and work around like a clock. You can start wherever. So for today, we'll start here at this 70. We need to connect up to this one. So again, you stop at 70. Look around to see where it's safe to put a 70 and where is it safe to put the line for 70. Where is it safe, Phoenix? Where, two numbers am I gonna go between?
69, 34.
You got it. Okay. Keeping, again, you can think of it the other way as thinking, okay, on one side it has to be less, and on the other side it has to be more than 70. So just keep marching around until you've drawn your line that's separating everything less than 70 from anything greater than 70. Once once you've done that 70 line, I've got my answer on the board, but I want you to try and do it first without looking at my answer. So once I've given you the okay on your 70, you can go ahead and keep going all the way up to 100, what is it, 110? Keep going. Here it is. So again, remember, you can check your own work by looking, okay, is everything on the inside bigger than 70? Everything on the outside less than 70? Good. Notice, I'm glad you noticed that. Ooh, what the heck's going on here, painters?
Oh, I just,
So,
I don't know.
you can't do your own thing. Why are you using a pen?
Oh, sorry, but-
Okay, got pencils up here for anybody who needs a pencil. This is really hard to do in pen because then you end up with some mistakes.
What is that?
It's called whiteout. Yeah, put a 70 between 68 and 67. Put a 70 between. Where it's safe to put this. Anybody wants a pencil, go grab them. Who have I not looked at yet? Who needs help? Who needs me to check some more? You can't. Nope, you can't. You need to do it away. And if it's clear, you can have everything.
It's like, if one working for one.
Keep going, all the way to 110.
Side stuff, that's it.
That's like awesome. Start your
Yeah.
110. Guys, I'm gonna turn the lights on because I don't know about you, but I'm having trouble seeing. So if you've got this, keep going. Try to get all the way to 110. All right, so a couple of you are still finishing up, but I think you're on the right track. Where I saw mistakes, the first place I saw mistakes was with the 80 line. And this is the problem with just focusing in on the highlighted ones. So at the 80, there were not many. There was 4 out of all of them. And there was not any 80s over here on the left side. So people just are like, okay, I'm going to connect that one to that one. And just like I was just talking with Phoenix, he just skipped the whole left side. But when you stopped and looked, every time you think you're done drawing a line, I need you to stop and see, okay, here's my 80 line. Everything on the inside is greater than 80. Everything on the outside is less. If you had made a mistake, you would have noticed that you had left a bunch of 80s to roam free with the 70s and the 60s. It's not allowed. The other place that people kept like not trusting themselves was like down here with the 70 line here and the 80 line. It's okay to have two lines right next to each other without numbers in between them. Because this right here is equal to 70. And then, so that's like saying, here's 70 and there's 81. We absolutely need an 80 in between 70 and 81. You can't just let them hang out next to each other. Same deal here. There's an 80 and a 90 line hanging out next to each other with no numbers in between. It's totally allowed. So just make sure you take your time. The other mistake I saw was the 110s. So here was 110, there was 110, but there's 112. So 112 needs to be on the inside of the 110 lines. How you guys feel with that? Okay, we're gonna do lots more practice with that tomorrow. So I think I said yesterday, when you're doing these maps, you have to do a bunch of different things. One thing you have to be able to do is draw them. And then the next thing you have to be able to do is then read them, meaning what the heck does this map mean? So before we start just like throwing you in the deep end, what we're gonna do is go to, this is not the same packet, that's why I'm not finding the page thing. So you just finished page 28. So let's, oh, right to page 29, the very next page. So page 29, so just turn the page one over from where you were just working. If you hadn't finished up page 28, I am going to need you to move on to page 29 with me. So I think I said on Friday when we picked up this packet that there's not many notes. It's mostly practice, like what we just did. This page is one of the pages that we got to do notes on. So today, the rest of today is going to be just pretty much notes. It's really vocab, but vocab / instruction. So the rest of today is going to be a bunch of writing. So I do need you guys with me, even though it's going to be kind of boring. So this is an example of one of those maps. It's labeled topographic map. You ever heard that before? Because I didn't mention it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah? You have? Good. Have you heard of topography before? That is something you would have learned in social studies.
Yeah.
Yeah? What is it?
Right now.
It is maps. What kind of maps though? Topography or what? Oh, I thought you said something. What? Terrain. Yeah, it shows a map of what the terrain looks like. Or in other words, these are maps that show elevation. So you guys have the same page on page 29, right here where it says topographic maps. I want you to label this maps that show elevation. Maps that show elevation. But didn't we call those something else yesterday? Let me rephrase that. We called that something else yesterday. How about you flip back in your notes? I love it, Olivia. You did that before I even asked. Flip back into your notes to what we did yesterday, page 24. And flip back in your notes to page 24 to show, find the word. So now we're gonna wait for everybody to find it, so don't shout it out. What's another name for these maps that show elevation? Remember me to find it? Yeah. So these are, and I want you to add this to your notes. Also known as contour maps. So you can use those words interchangeably, or you'll hear me use them interchangeably. A topographic map and a contour map are essentially the same thing for us, maps that show elevation. One, I think I said this yesterday, you may or may not ever use these in your real life, but what people who do, like the ski resorts, they absolutely need these maps so that they can see on a map before they go out and cut a new trail. They want to see, is it going to be super steep or is this going to be a bunny hill? Are there any streams going through and what does that do to the terrain? So, or if you're out hiking or hunting and hence have to hike, you might need these maps to see what kind of trail you're going for. So if you're out to go for like a really difficult hike, you're going to want to look at this map before you do that. Or if you're going to go, you're like me and you don't want difficult, definitely check out the map first so you can see what you're in for. So we're just going to get a few things out of the way today. I'm hoping you know that first word, map scale. Do you know the first word, map scale?
Scale on that.
It's the scale of the map. Okay, what's that mean? Thank you very much, you smart aleck. What's a map scale for? We already used them once this year, so I know you guys know what they are, and you're all just being so shy. Can you point to the map scale? How about that? Can we start that on your page? Can you point to the map scale? Okay, you guys do know what we're talking about. So since you're being stubborn, now you have to label it. Map scale. And what do we use this map scale for? Since you guys already all know it, what's it for? Somebody say it. Thank you, Olivia. That I couldn't have put it better myself. So in this box right here, measures, but save room because we're gonna have a second line. Measures distance on a map. There's a couple of different types of units that these could be in. So I'm going to add that. Measured in. What does this map use as its unit of measurement for distance? Kilometers. So usually measured in kilometers. You guys know how to abbreviate kilometers? KM. So this is like a very scientific-y map or a map from Canada. It's hard to say. So they used kilometers. What would our maps here for the everyday US citizen be measured in? Miles. So measured in miles or kilometers or miles. They will be one or the other this year. It's hard to say. So always check what they're labeled. Don't just assume it's in kilometers. It might be in miles. By the way, how do we abbreviate miles? It's MI. Guys, I need you to know that confidently. If you use just an M, that would stand for meters. So if you ever are to a point and you're like, I don't remember how to abbreviate something, then don't. It's perfectly acceptable to say miles and spell out MILES. But what is not acceptable is to make up your own abbreviation. So never abbreviate miles with an M, because then you'd be wrong. And I'd have to mark it wrong, even if I knew you knew what you were talking about. So that's a map scale. Contour interval, we did this one yesterday. Can you please either tell me what it is or I'm going to make you all look it up again? Yeah, we did it already today. What is it, Drake?
It's like the number in between.
Yeah, it is. The number in between two lines. There's an easier way of saying it though. How did I have you say it yesterday? Yep. Between two contour lines, but then I had a second part of it. Didn't write the second part. The second part was the easier part. Anybody write the second part? What the lines count by. So it's really what they're going up by or what they're counting by. So before on the one we just did in class, that was going, the lines were counting by tens. So I want to keep just the simpler way of in this part. So contour interval are what the lines go up by? Now, here's the problem. Does this map tell you what they go up by? It does not. And not all maps will tell you, because that's one thing that you're expected to be able to figure out. I will tell you, I did make a mistake and I erased too many. This line right here should be labeled 100. So if you guys could label, so it's the first littler circle right there. That should be labeled 100. They will always label a couple really important lines. Meaning they won't just leave them all blank like I did. That was a mistake. But now how do you figure out what the rest of the lines are? Huh? You could say, okay, from here to there is 100 and there's 5 lines and do math. I don't know if you guys know me enough yet, but I hate math. So I avoid doing math at any cost. So what I do is I do kind of like when we were doing graphs, when I'm like, pick a number and see if it works. That's what I want to do. So I could see if I count by ones. That's super easy to tell. There are not 100 lines between here and there. Oh, wait, before I do that, what is this label right here? How'd you know that that was also 0? Remember, anything on this line. So this line's labeled 0. It's still 0 here. It's still 0 over here. It would still be 0 up here. Everywhere on that line is 0. Okay, so now if I know it's 0 there and 100 there, there's clearly not counting by ones. Okay, I would have tried 10s first and found 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 didn't work. So you guys are correct. I need more. So 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. What would this line be? On 20. What would this line be? This is also 100. So this is just like that other map where there's 2 separate peaks. 0, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 80, 100, 120. Perfect. So we need to add some information up here or over here where we just took these notes, and that is what these are measured in. So in this case, this one was nicely labeled for us. It's measured in meters, which again that's what's abbreviated M. So again, that would be scientists or people from Canada would use meters. What would we use? Talk about how tall mountains are. Yeah, we don't probably measure. We could, no doubt we could, but we won't. Yeah, so we don't want to use inches because then if we're talking about a mountain's a lot of inches big. So yeah, we would use feet. So we would use mountains by feet. Somebody last period said miles. But we're not going to measure a mountain in miles very often because most mountains aren't multiple miles tall. Certainly no mountains around us or hills around us. So we will use feet, not miles. Same with we use meters, because this is a meter, to measure how tall mountains are, not kilometers. So measured in meters or feet. How do you abbreviate feet? Yeah, that's FT. I figured you knew that one. And you know what? It looks like that's as far as we're going to get today. I know we have a little bit of time, but not enough time to get through the whole next vocab word. So you have no homework tonight. Tomorrow, you're going to be given some practice doing the lines and some latitude and longitude review. Tomorrow, what you don't finish will be homework. Okay? Perfect, guys.